And this is now on HNN.
Douglas strengthens, becoming the first hurricane of the Eastern Pacific this season.
If we learned anything from Hurricane Lane a couple of years ago, is that we don't want to wait until the last minute.
As the pandemic rolls on, emergency officials don't want hurricane preparedness overlooked, but being ready comes at a big financial cost.
We're scared. We don't want to bury a student. We don't want to bury a colleague.
California now has more coronavirus cases than any other state in the U.S. I'm Chris Martinez with the other states also seeing troubling numbers.
In the end, a plan needs to be established, a date needs to be established. DOE has established that date based on the parameters we provided to what we said needed to happen.
These stories, plus the teachers union says it has no confidence that public schools can reopen safely on August 4th. Coming up on This Is Now.
The state is reporting another patient with COVID-19 has passed away. We'll have more on that in just a second, but first let's get to severe weather coverage.
That's right, Douglas has strengthened into the first hurricane of the 2020 Eastern Pacific season. The National Weather Service just got an update on the storm's track. Here's warning coordination meteorologist John Bravender.
Douglas strengthened to a hurricane overnight and is right now has winds of around 80 miles an hour. The latest forecast has the track shifted a little farther north. Still looks like it's heading towards the state. It's also a little stronger too. Current forecast has it becoming a major hurricane, a Category 3 hurricane tomorrow, and then starting the weekend. First as it moves over cooler water to our east, and then more so towards the weekend as it encounters some stronger wind shear. Douglas has actually sped up a little bit. It's moving a little faster than we were seeing yesterday. We could see impacts beginning as early as Sunday. In addition to winds that you would expect with a hurricane or tropical storm, there's also a potential for flash flooding. Be a lot of rainfall with Douglas, which could be impact the state. How strong Douglas is as it approaches the state will depend a lot on what happens over the next day or two. We're expecting it to strengthen over really warm water in an area of low wind shear. If it does strengthen as much as forecast, it could be stronger as it approaches the state. Because we're expecting a gradual weakening as it moves over cooler water and eventually faster as it encounters stronger wind shear, how strong it is when it begins that weakening process will have an impact for how strong winds are as it approaches the state. One thing we don't want people to do is fixate too much on the exact track, taking it towards Hawaii County. This far out in time, our average errors are around 200 miles. So really any part of the state could be impacted from Douglas.
Now, emergency officials say they understand the pandemic is adding another layer of stress to families who are trying to prepare for this threat of severe weather. We got Lacey Denise with more on that.
Hurricane Douglas is the first system ever to come our way during a pandemic, and that makes planning for the storm more challenging. The city's Department of Emergency Management says shelter capacity may be limited because of it. Officials say they are assessing 150 facilities around Oahu, including new locations that they haven't used in the past, and they say family units will be spaced 6 feet apart.
We came up with guidance for PPE in shelters for screening people as they come in, and we're actively putting together kits of personal protective equipment for every shelter. We're making sure that there's classrooms available if someone is symptomatic, that we can isolate them from the rest of the shelter.
The Hawaii Emergency Management Agency also says vacant hotel rooms may be used as shelters. Another issue is staffing, since many of the volunteers at shelters are often retirees who are considered a high-risk group for COVID. And with many people still out of work, Mayor Caldwell says he knows some are struggling to buy 14 days worth of food and supplies for a hurricane kit. He says they are working on a city-issued debit card for families in need. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
Now let's send it over to Guy Hoggy with more on today's weather and the possible incoming threat.
How's it on this Wednesday? We have very calm weather today, and that the winds will be light. That will lead to high humidity levels, maybe some afternoon clouds. Lots of rain out of the ocean, but over land, there's really not much. Should be relatively dry today, save for a few showers, maybe in the afternoon because of the light winds. We're also expecting afternoon cloud buildups, but lots of sunshine too. That's why temperature is running to about 90 degrees. Now, the surf showing some improvement. We are expecting it to get a little bit bigger by this afternoon for most shores. And the other thing to watch out for, very high tide again this evening, could lead to coastal flooding for some areas. And the weather's going to remain rather calm today. Trade winds coming back by tomorrow, and then they'll be running brisk through Saturday. And on Sunday, we could be seeing some effects from Douglas into Monday, mainly for the east end of the state. Now, this morning, Hurricane Douglas intensified, expected to get stronger over the next few days. Now, the thing about it is the computer models are basically in agreement that it's going to come into our neighborhood sometime between Sunday and Monday, especially for the Big Island. We could be seeing some big waves, which could lead to coastal flooding, maybe even a storm surge. Not to mention the rain that could cause some flooding. And also, we could see some tornadoes and waterspouts. So be prepared for the worst, especially if you're on the east end of the state, Maui County and the Big Island. And if you need more information, download our Hawaii News Now weather app. We'll have more details on air and online.
Preparation means having the supplies you need to weather the storm. Both FEMA and HIEMA have suggestions of what you should have in your supply kit. So we were wondering, how much would that cost for a family of 4 to make a supply kit? H&N's digital team crunched the numbers, and here's what we came up with. Your most important supply, water, and that really can be a real variable when calculating the cost of your kit. Emergency officials say you should have 1 gallon of water per person per day for at least 14 days. The water is meant for drinking and sanitation. The price of water really ranges depending on your preference. You can get your supply for pennies by using the tap and reused containers. But if you want to go the store-bought route, that can add up real fast. So let's say you wanted to buy your water. You would need 23 of those 2.5 gallon jugs that are commonly sold in the big box stores. Those plastic containers are priced at about $3 a piece, making the cost for a family of 4 around $70. If we lose power, you can't count on the refrigerator to store your foods. That's why officials recommend that you buy high-calorie, shelf-stable foods and store them in a cool, dry place. Examples of high-calorie foods that do not require heat or additional water to prepare include nuts, ready-to-eat cereals, peanut butter, dried fruit, and canned soups. A less modest food budget could easily top hundreds of dollars for a family of 4. You can find a bucket like this on Amazon. It claims to have 100 servings of ready-to-eat food, and it costs about $100. And get this, it has a shelf life of 25 years. As for the first aid kit, it's really going to depend on where you're shopping and what you're shopping for. I saw them online ranging from about $6 to all the way up to $100, but there was one that was quality for only $20. With the ongoing pandemic, the supplies you need for your emergency kit are going to be a little different this year. Listen to what Mayor Caldwell said you'll need to stay safe from the storm and the pandemic.
We need to be ready. We're in hurricane season, and if we have to evacuate, we need to find shelter space sufficient to handle folks who are going to move into shelters, hopefully with their COVID-19 kits of hand sanitizer and face coverings and everything else, but also with physical distancing of like 6 feet, and there are challenges here.
Having access to information is important before, during, and after a disaster. A battery-operated crank radio will often work when other methods of communications are not available. HIEMA strongly recommends a radio as part of your emergency supply kit. That's going to run you about $20. Other items recommended: a fire extinguisher and cleaning wipes. About $40 for a good one of these, and about $15 for an 8-pack of these. Having a power supply is very important, so those extra batteries are going to cost you. 4 packs of batteries at different sizes can cost more, but if you shop around, you'll find some deals. We're going to say it costs around $40. And of course, your family is going to need flashlights, and there's many affordable options out there for these as well. We're going to estimate it costing about $20 for everyone in your family to get one. And the list goes on. You're going to need garbage bags, $12, a can opener, $5. Make sure it's manual and no power is needed to use it. A toolkit, we found a good one for around $20. Make sure you have enough bleach, $8. Other personal hygiene items recommended will run you around $30. Cooking supplies, $35 if you don't have them already. Besides the pots and pans, you're going to need other cooking utensils. It's recommended you get things like a mess kit, paper plates, paper towels, plastic utensils, and foil. That's going to cost you, we think, around $35. A whistle. Again, shop around, but we're going to say for everyone in your family to get one, it would cost around $10. There may be circumstances when staying put and creating a barrier between yourself and the outside is necessary. The process is known as sealing the room, and it's a matter of survival. That's why you'll need plastic sheeting and duct tape. That's going to run you around $35. Officials also recommend getting local printed maps because your Google Earth is not going to work if your phone dies. That's going to run you $5. Pet supplies, $15. And the grand total is $464 for a family of 4 supply kit. And that cost is not including the price of water. We took that out because there was such a big range in prices. Now keep in mind, this is just our best estimate of a supply kit for a family of 4. Your family's needs may be way different, so shop around to keep your family safe. That's a lot of stuff, right?
That was super informative, John.
Yeah, I did a lot of online shopping yesterday. So if you want to see that full list of things, I got the story posted right on our homepage. You can go to it. Again, your prices are going to be different than mine. It's all about shopping for the deals and what you need specifically for your family. We got to switch gears back to the coronavirus news. Reports of another death.
Yes, the state health department is reporting another patient with COVID-19 has died. We're told the state's latest fatality is a middle-aged Oahu man. DOH is also reporting 17 new COVID-19 cases today. All patients are on Oahu. Meanwhile, the teachers union says it has no confidence that schools can reopen safely on August 4th and urged the state to delay its plan to bring students back for in-person instruction until more is done to address concerns from teachers and parents. We talked to HSTA President Corey Rosenlee this morning on Sunrise.
We've heard this from parents and teachers as well, but from your own experience and from what you've seen, how unprepared are we for August 4th?
We're not prepared. And I want to be clear what we're asking for. We are asking that the school buildings not be open to our students. We are asking for that our teachers can come back. We can start training them because we know that if we bring our teachers on campus, we can socially isolate them. But we have no confidence right now that the Department of Education is ready to open our schools for our students. And unless these certain protocols and practices are put into place, we only believe this is going to make things worse.
Okay, so just to clarify on what you just said, you're saying open the campuses, get the teachers in, get them training. Are you also talking about distance learning, or are we talking about nothing for the children at this point?
So the first thing we want to do is this. Right now, teachers are not given any more training than they would in any normal school year. And we know this is not a normal school year. Mm-hmm. Our teachers have not been trained about how to do distance learning. So we expect that from the very beginning, there will be certain schools that are going to have to close just because of cases that break out there. And if we don't train our teachers, then the problem is it will be no different than what happened in the spring. So what we're asking for is a gradual approach. First thing is this. Let's bring back our teachers onto campus. First of all, we want to make sure that we have enough teachers that show up on campus. We don't even know that yet. We have deep concerns about how many teachers may be retiring. We have 1,000 new teachers that we have to bring in every single year. A lot of these are coming from the mainland. I want to make sure that they've gone through the quarantine process and that we can start off the school year. So by bringing on the teachers first, we're going to be able to see whether we have enough teachers to teach campus. We'll be able to train our teachers. And then the next important thing is this. Our teachers will be able to see firsthand whether our schools have been set up to make sure that they are safe for our students.
Right.
And then gradually, if a lot of these protocols and questions have been answered, we can start having the conversation about what's next for our students.
So based off what you're saying, August 4th, if we're still going down this road, empty classrooms without teachers is not necessarily out of the question.
Well, The sad part is that this pandemic has shown the inequity that we already had.
Right.
We always start the school year without having qualified teachers in the classrooms. I can't envision what it's going to be like for kids that have multiple subs, which happens every single year. I mean, how are they supposed to have any continuity of learning? So the only question is not, are we going to have classrooms taught by substitutes, but how many classrooms are we going to have by substitutes? And if we rush things, is it just going to be worse?
Yeah, all right. So August 4th is obviously the date we're looking at this point. Of course, there is more meeting with the Board of Education and then a decision, of course, with the Department of Education. Either way, Corey Rosenlee, thank you for joining us and giving us some perspective at this time.
The U.S. reported more than 1,000 coronavirus deaths yesterday for the first time in 2 weeks, and California now has more than 400,000 infections, now overtaking New York for the most cases. Chris Martinez has the latest.
Cases are leveling off in parts of Texas, but border communities are seeing hospitals fill up. Funeral directors in hard-hit Hidalgo County say they are running out of space to store bodies.
We normally do about maybe 6 to 10 funerals a month, and right now we're doing almost 10 a week.
According to Texas health officials, Hispanic people make up more than 40% of confirmed coronavirus cases. In California, Latinos account for more than 55% of infections. Alexandria Cubias lost her father and her sister to coronavirus just days apart.
Losing two members within less than a week itself, it's the hardest thing you could go through.
California now has 409,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus, overtaking New York as the state with the most infections.
I don't myself overread into the significance of that number. I look at every day as an opportunity to do more and do better with our response to COVID-19.
While California has surpassed New York in terms of cases, it still has only a fraction of the deaths, under 8,000.
Florida is now averaging more COVID-related deaths per day than any other state, 115 a day over the past week. Amid the spike, teachers in Florida paraded in cars to keep schools closed.
We're scared. We don't want to bury a student. We don't want to bury a colleague.
Florida's largest teachers union has sued the state over plans to reopen schools next month. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Daniel and Lyra Kanan of California have been arrested for violating quarantine. They allegedly swam daily outside their long-term rental in Waimanalo. The state says nearby residents alerted the Facebook group Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers about the couple. They have since been released after posting bail.
Because of the nature of COVID-19 and a couple of indoor gym clusters, some workout facilities are now requiring an extra layer of protection. We got Mahealani Richardson with those details.
At the bar method in Mo'iliili,
and then I'll take your temperature.
After a quick temperature scan, these fitness fans are feeling the burn.
Up, lower, down.
And wearing a mask at all times is mandatory.
We've been open, 5.5 years, so we definitely just want to do the right thing and keep everyone safe and know that anyone walking into the studio is safe.
Here at the YMCA of Honolulu, members are required to wear face coverings the whole time, even during a heavy workout. But for some members, it's just too difficult to breathe. So if that's the case, there is an alternative. They can wear a face shield instead.
Well, there is some concern on everybody's part about the airborne nature of COVID transmission. So we decided just to take a more conservative, safer approach and require masks all the time.
Stefano Magadino pumps 90 pounds of weight for 4 sets of 15 repetitions. A strenuous workout made even more challenging with a mask.
At first it was a little difficult because I couldn't get enough air. So I learned to pace myself.
It's not so much the carbon dioxide content, but it is the resistance of breathing, the airflow.
Orthopedic surgeon Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio says wearing a mask takes getting used to.
I do want to validate, those people that do feel that wearing a mask is uncomfortable and difficult to breathe.
But she says it's not harmful and won't deplete your blood of oxygen.
But it is not an oxygenation dangerous issue. It's a level of comfort and conditioning and feeling used to it.
While the government does not mandate masks while exercising, Dr. Ignacio credits gyms that go the extra mile.
It is for the greater good, especially in an indoor kind of gym atmosphere where there's a lot of heavy breathing. It's important to wear the mask.
Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
A major hotel chain is now asking guests to mask up. Howard Dykes has a wrap-up of your biz news.
Marriott this week says it will start requiring all guests at all hotels in all 50 states to wear masks. The rule takes effect next Monday. United Airlines says it's cutting its losses, but this summer it's losing $25 million a day. It was $40 million a day in the spring. Alaska Airlines reaches agreement with pilots to avoid furloughs, downsizing through voluntary programs instead. The Wall Street Journal reports this morning the MAX jet is now unlikely to win FAA recertification to fly again until next year, 2 months later than all previous expectations. And a company finding a COVID silver lining is the jet engine maker Pratt & Whitney. So many of its jets are grounded, it has caught up on maintenance fixes. SBA reports more than 15,000 EIDL loans to Hawaii small businesses through this week. More than $850 million in EIDL lending. EIDL, that's EIDL. It stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And yes, the COVID slump counts as an economic disaster. EIDL loans are measured in billions in 4 states, California, Florida, New York, and Texas.
Thank you, Howard. Time to see what the internet is buzzing about from the feeds. What you got, Ash?
Check out this heart-stopping video from Phoenix. A toddler is dropped from the 3rd floor of a burning apartment building by his mother and caught by a Good Samaritan who was at the right place at the right time. That Good Samaritan, thankfully, is not only a retired U.S. Marine, but also a former college football player. The 3-year-old was okay after the rescue, but unfortunately his mother did not survive.
Always good to have a football player there to catch.
Absolutely.
Right?
Now here at home, a group from New Zealand claims it will field Hawaii's first pro rugby team, and it'll hit the field next year. But as Jim Mendoza reports, there are some big hurdles that still need to be cleared.
Putting his head down is Furno, and he powers in for the try.
We'll be the first professional rugby team in the world coming to Hawaii. That in itself is a huge feat.
Tracy Atinga is CEO of Kanaloa Hawaii Rugby, which has been awarded a license to compete in Major League Rugby, North America's professional league.
Major League is obviously the premier rugby competition across the states at the moment. It includes 13 other states. And actually includes Toronto from Canada as well.
And cutting off the right foot, heading towards the goal line.
Former players from New Zealand's well-known All Blacks team own the club, and they've selected a coach and a manager. But there's skepticism surrounding the news.
Some say Kanaloa Hawaii's proposal for a 2021 start to its season is premature. UH Athletics denied the team's request for access to its practice and workout facilities.
Plus, the stadium authority hasn't heard from the group, so Aloha Stadium isn't a likely venue for home matches. And despite the club's claims, Hawaiian Airlines says it has no sponsorship agreement with Kanaloa.
I hope that they really put this all together. I just am a little skeptical when people come in and say that they're going to do all these great, glorious things that create excitement, and they really haven't dotted their I's and crossed their T's.
Kanaloa says it would like to eventually build its own stadium for matches. Former USA and international rugby player Joshua Rice believes there's a fan base in Hawaii for a pro team.
There's definitely people who like rugby and aware of rugby and watch rugby. I don't know, they just have to see if they can make all the numbers work.
Atinga says Kanaloa Hawaii Rugby is a go. It will recruit players and training camp opens in January.
It's more than just a game. It's more than just a team. It's a movement for us.
Major League Rugby's season runs from February through June. Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Jim Mendoza, for that story. Always good to hear from your reports. That's going to do it for This Is Now. We'll be back here tomorrow with all your news coming up after sunrise every day here on KHNL and on Facebook. And you can always touch us on our podcast as well, anywhere you find our podcast. Have a good day.
Aloha.